What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Yala, your thrice weekly podcast where we talk about the hottest news with a touch of what, Terrence?
Good old humor, man.
Good old humor. Good old humor,
Yes.
man.
Yeah,
It is the weekend before Chinese New Year.
that's right. Yep, big weekend coming up for
Yeah,
the majority of the population in
Chinese.
Singapore. Yeah.
The Chinese. No, I've been seeing pictures of Chinatown in Singapore, and it's damn packed, yeah.
Yeah. I think don't forget, this is the first Chinese New Year. A lot of people are celebrating like properly, visiting and doing everything. Probably in a few years, yeah.
Yeah, correct. In a few years, so yeah. I'm sure I think the CNY decorations are in full force now. But
so every year I always ask you what
to-
what do you have lined up for Chinese New Year, because it's always a interesting question to ask non-Chinese friends.
the non-Chinese.
Yeah.
I've been learning from that one time many years ago when me and my non-Chinese friends all figured that we have a brilliant idea. Let's go to Sentosa on Chinese New Year because it'll be empty because no one else would have thought of that.
Yeah.
We went there and we saw almost every single non-Chinese person in Singapore.
Yeah.
So that happened years ago. We learned from that. This week and this year somewhere is super long weekend lah, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So just yesterday, my wife and I were thinking like, should we just go somewhere? Then we were looking at Bintan, to be honest.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
how's
just
that?
exploring that. Bintan or Desaru, nothing firmed up yet lah. But just one of those like, okay, get away for a bit. Actually, Desaru is a pretty cool place, man. Pretty underrated, I think.
But
I went there
wouldn't
to surf
it be
years ago.
wouldn't there be a crowd rush as well going to those
Probably
places?
because I checked like ferry tickets and all sold out already.
Also, okay. You can try
Yeah, so
swimming.
if you go there, you're going to see a bunch of Singaporean non-Chinese people. Instead of Sentosa Beach now, it'll be Desaru Beach.
Yeah, you have to go further and further. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
But I mean, it's not a bad thing to just. I actually kind of like roaming the streets a bit during Chinese New Year when stuff is all closed. For some reason, it really reminds. I mean, the last 3 years there was COVID, right? Basically,
Yeah.
roaming the streets and everything is closed. But Chinese New Year is that one time a year during a bit more normal times where you get to experience that, lah. So appreciate it while during those few days. And then I think
that's true. Right?
I think what I used to do was always try to watch a movie during Chinese New Year, right? Because movies.
What I used to do?
What I used to do, yeah.
Oh,
It was just a fun experience just to break away from the whole like visiting and seeing relatives and all that, lah. Yeah. Maybe you could try that too, and finally watch Avatar, right? Yeah.
Another correct. Avatar. That's true. Avatar, Circle Line.
Circle Line, yeah. Either monster
Circle
movie.
Line.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
But yeah,
Cool.
it's a new week. So we have
It's
a
a new
bunch of
week.
new topics to talk about. But as always, we have something
Yes.
to plug beforehand. And what is that?
Yeah. It is that if you've enjoyed this podcast or it has touched you in any way, it would be great if you could introduce it to someone else. And not just check out the podcast. You can check out our Instagram, our TikTok, our subreddit, our newsletter, all of which are growing healthily, and we just want it to grow even more. So all the links are in the show notes. All the links.
That's right.
Yeah. You
Shall
can
we?
find us everywhere.
Yeah.
Yes, we shall.
Shall we jump into the
Cool.
first topic? Which is in the spirit of kinship and giving that is around the corner for Chinese New Year. This is a very interesting topic that has captivated social media in Singapore, and not just Singapore, maybe a little bit outside as well, right?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's it's a still developing story. That started off on 8th January, with an individual in Singapore, 17-year-old girl, Zoe Gabriel, who uploaded on TikTok a short video of her getting a gift from her dad, which was a Charles and Keith handbag. So I don't think I need to explain what Charles and Keith is. I think everybody knows, especially after this story. But it's an $80 bag, and she was so excited, and she termed it her first luxury handbag. So that came out on 8 January. And as comments go on TikTok, there were a lot of people saying, "Oh, it's so nice. Your dad is so sweet," and all that. But there were comments who were also pointing out to her that, "Hey, Charles and Keith, $80 is not a luxury bag." Then somehow it snowballed, and I think as of now it has 18.5 million views on TikTok. And 2 days later, she posted a video, kind of like an emotional video, reacting to one of the some of the comments. She highlighted one comment in particular that said, "Who's gonna tell her?" with a laughing smiley emoji. And she talked about how she grew up in with circumstances that where a handbag like that wasn't affordable lah. Even buying like bread from Bread Talk after they moved to Singapore, so that they're from the Philippines, and after they moved to Singapore, so that also went viral. 5.9 million views, and since then she's been in the news for a number of reasons lah. But that's the thing that kicked it off.
Yeah, that's right.
That's the thing. And it came out last week. Do you remember thinking about it as a potential topic for last week's podcast?
Definitely. I think it was especially off the back of her response video to the slightly snarky comments. But it felt like it wasn't the story wasn't ripe yet. Like you don't want to eat the banana when it's too ripe, right? It's not tasty. But when you just wait a little bit, and now I think it's at a point where it's worth talking about, because I think a lot of people have seen how viral this girl's post has gone, and you start seeing a lot of people tacking themselves onto this entire campaign and all that. And maybe that's why I think it's a good time to talk about it. And you?
So just now you said you don't eat a banana when it's too ripe. You mean unripe lah?
Yeah, when it's unripe. Yeah, when it's too unripe. But too ripe also a problem, right? Too ripe also is soft and soggy and got bruises all over it. So you don't want to wait until then either. Yeah. Even my dog rejects. Even my dog rejects like those ripe, overly ripe bananas.
Is it?
Yeah.
You mean when it's like toothpaste, like you have to squeeze it out of the banana?
Yeah, right? Yeah, exactly.
I'll still eat it. So no one in my house would eat it, but I'll still eat it.
Yeah.
But yes. So what you're saying is last week it was an unripe banana. Now we might be going towards it being too ripe a banana.
We're just at the...
Oh, not yet.
Just starting to see the bruises now. Just starting.
The bruises, the
black dots. But we're there. I think it's a good time now. Let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, same for me. Last week it came out, it just felt like... I mean, we have spoken about the toxicity of TikTok comments. And I mean, we've been on every platform, and TikTok takes it to another level. So when it came out last week, it did feel like, wow, it's just fucked up. Here's someone who's just sharing a happy moment in her life, and she called the bag luxury bag, and the way people were reacting was just horrible. But it felt like it wasn't contentious. There was nothing to debate, because here's a sweet girl post something, and then people hate on it.
Yeah.
But this week, there's more that developed. But why?
No, I was going to say that I think, when watching that video last week as well, people are telling me, "Oh, you should check this out." And I was like, yeah, it's another one of those like trying to get sympathy kind of videos. I went in with that mentality, but watching it, I realized, actually, it doesn't feel inauthentic. It sounded quite earnest. She's still a very young girl, and still, she made very good points, and she brought her points up in a very articulate way, without being too abrasive with the commenter, even though the commenter is probably anonymous and all, right? So I thought, okay, this got a good head on her shoulders, seems to be brought up well, So yeah, I was quite impressed with the whole video. But yeah, now I think the story takes a turn when it's become a much larger thing, and people start sort of projecting their intents and their insecurities on this whole story as well, right? And what is this big? I mean, what is the general bigger development that's happened since then?
The bigger development, basically, it was in the news that the Charles and Keith owners actually met Zoe Gabriel for lunch last week. They invited her and her dad to their headquarters. They gave her a bunch of free stuff, which she posted about on TikTok. And since then, there've been a series of posts from Zoe that showcase brands who have reached out to her, and giving her free stuff and expressing how irritated they were with the negativity of TikTok, and all that lah. And so I mean, the conversation is still going. When I was doing research, I mean, people were even debating what the fuck a luxury bag means. Like, what defines luxury?
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, those were the things that happened, and you see a bunch of articles. And I mean, this news actually made the New York Post, this event. When it first came out, the New York Post is all over the Philippines news. She's done a bunch of video interviews, and I mean, it's great to see her come out of it positively lah. But with all that happened, why do you say it took a turn, Terence? Isn't this just a happy story full of rainbows and sunshine?
I mean, I wish it would have ended like with the video going viral and people pouring in support. But now we're starting to see a lot of brands stepping forward and offering her vouchers because of her grace and humility that she displayed. And basically pouring sponsorships and free gifts to her to sort of, I don't know, to make up for whatever she was getting from the bad comments and all that, to the feelings, the bad feelings. So I think when you go from one extreme of someone sort of displaying a lot of humility and earnestness and all that, and then suddenly you tack on, suddenly it goes the other 180 degree, it goes 180 degrees, and it becomes the target of a capitalist what do you call it? What's the term called? Bandwagoning, right? Brands coming forward, offering vouchers and making sure that the name's in the news because of that. Then it starts to feel, inevitably you start to question, how exploitative this whole thing is, like whether it's exploiting her for her fame or basically just shilling stuff by bandwagoning on the heartstrings that Zoe was pulling of all the people who view the videos and all that, right? So it starts to me, I mean, in my estimation, it starts to the whole thing just starts to feel a bit insincere, right?
It feels insincere on whose part?
On everyone's part, everyone's part. The fact that all the brands are bandwagoning on this thing, and then I don't know, yeah, just suddenly this the whole sudden celebrity of it kind of, I'm also like, does it encourage people to do more of what she did as well, which I think some commenters and all anonymously have come forward and started to question her story, even her background story of her being, growing up poor and things like that, right? So yeah, that's why it just takes a bit of a darker turn, right? But for you, it's not a problem, it's totally fine, is it?
Oh no!
You got this face of a skeptic. You got this face. If you're not watching a video, your face got this very disapproving look as I was talking through my thoughts.
No. That's my new face of 2023. Yeah, skepticism. It's the default, this skepticism and cynicism.
Is that the merit? Is that a merit face?
That was my vow. The merit face.
Yeah, that's
right
the face
after
that
I
you
said
have.
I do. Yeah, right after I said I do, I could feel my face morph. I was like, what is happening?
The facial muscles all stiffening up into this permanent scowl. Everything they say, you just got to hold your tongue. You can't just lash out like how you used to and all that.
Yeah. Hey, what do you mean how I used to?
Oh,
hey, hello. Don't spread all fake news.
The mercurial ranting like there used to be.
Yeah, I'm fucking loving and fucking compassionate, okay? Don't give me this nonsense. Fake news.
Yes. But yes.
Yeah, so I mean, I think one thing definitely, I don't think I'm going to let, in future, if I do have kids, I don't think I'm going to let my kids go on social media till they're 21 or even 25 or maybe even 30. Because this whole thing has showed something like, I mean, okay, so I think, yeah, the brands, like, okay, Charles and Keith reaching out to her, I'm like, okay, lah. I think I'm more annoyed with some of the publications, namely, in specifically Straits Times, because
Mm,
even the way they titled the article, Charles and Keith invites viral luxury back TikTok teen to meet its founders, tour brand headquarters. It just feels like, okay, the focus is on Charles and Keith, lah, and
mm,
the teen is a prop.
exactly.
The
Yeah.
other publications, yeah, the other publications like I think CNA, TikTok teen mocked for her luxury Charles and Keith bag, hopes is invited to the HQ. And yeah, most other publications. So when I see the Straits Times title, I'm like, okay, it feels very PR-ish. But
Mm,
even Charles and Keith, they invite. I still think, okay, they were the brand in question. I think for them this is great publicity
mm,
because I don't think they are in the US markets.
mm,
Um, so if the New York Post is writing and in the whole spirit of like cyberbullying and all, wow,
mm,
they are coming out like it's great lah.
mm, mm,
I'm
mm.
more annoyed with the other brands lah. And if you're listening, you may have noticed that Terrence and I haven't mentioned the other brands. I think for the same reason. Correct
Mm,
me if I'm wrong, Terrence, because it feels like I don't want to say their names because they are clearly just latching onto it lah.
mm, mm,
They are
mm, mm.
clearly just latching onto it, and it feels like okay lah. This is becoming like a publicity vehicle lah.
Yeah.
And I mean, why I say publicity vehicle because one of them even posted on their Facebook, we
Mm,
are so irritated and all that. Here's a voucher. If you want
mm.
to show a gesture, you don't need to do it that. And that post got like 1,200 shares on Facebook, no?
Yeah. Yeah. That's
So
right.
so it feels like, ugh. I mean, okay, I get you're a business, you want to promote, but I don't know. Yeah, it just feels that. But then I'm thinking, is it wrong for Zoe to take these offers and post about it? Is it wrong?
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, you're you're raising from some interesting, quite a number of interesting points. Yeah, lah, could the brands have chosen to not be so public about giving her the vouchers or whatever, right?
Mm.
But then the capitalists will obviously say like, oh, there's a I mean, there has to be some economic incentive for them to do something like that, lah, right? But
The
that's
ROI,
where,
yeah.
yeah, but that's where I'm like, then that answer itself tells you that they're merely just exploiting or making use of the girl as like what you said, like a prop, lah, right, for their capitalist intentions, lah. And I think the point of a lot of what she was saying in her reaction video is don't judge people, don't place a dollar value on someone's self-esteem or self-worth, right, based on the price of the bag that they got. But think about the intentions that her father had when he bought her the bag. Think about the amount of effort, what it means to her, what it meant to her, what it meant to the father, what it meant to their relationship to do that. So yeah, just brands just jumping forward, offering her free shit and being so like aggressively publicizing it. It just feels like something's out of sync. Like it's the antithesis of what she's trying to tell people to do, like, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it just leaves a strange taste in people's mouths when they do things like that. And I'm not the biggest fan of all these people jumping forward and just staking their claim, like planting the flag on the moon, this huge viral moon that Zoe has created. But yeah, actually it's an interesting question. Like I mean, even for us as sort of semi influencer personalities, kind of, right? Well, very often we're also offered free stuff, right? Whether to try or to just here's some free beer for you, or here's some free something for you. You have no obligation to do anything, but yeah, we like your content and here's some free stuff. Generally, what do you think about those kind of arrangements?
I mean, I think like the ones that don't outwardly say, or like the first time they interact us or DM with us, is like, "Hi, can you share this to your followers and all?" That's the one I'm like, "Yo, man, like this, it just feels very, very transactional." As opposed to the brands that we have shared with
Yeah.
no like commercial thing or anything, they were just, it seemed very organic. Like there was that beer brand, right? That just very nicely sent us beers last year for Christmas. No mention, okay, can you post, can you do this? It felt like, yeah, just something genuine. And then we ended up posting because it's on us lah, you know. It's not so much about the fact that, okay, there's this transaction lah. There's this transaction.
Yeah, so maybe it's not so much Zoe's. It's not, the onus is not so much on Zoe to police what is being sent to her lah, right? But maybe it's on the brands lah, right? Because like what you said lah, like they send us whatever you want, send us free stuff. I mean, that's great, but don't be announcing it to the world as if it's something that the person already accepted lah, right? You know?
Yeah.
So that's where it leaves a bad taste in my mouth when companies do marketing like that, where they think that they are, they think they're doing something good for the person without actually even asking the person, is that something that you actually want? Like what, for example, like what is, have you asked, is Zoe allergic to any ingredient in your food, for example, right? Like you send someone, let's say someone has a peanut allergy, and then you send them some peanuts or something.
some party mix.
Yeah, peanut butter, like organic peanut butter from our shelves, and that doesn't make sense. So maybe there needs to be a bit more understanding of how these brands actually engage with the person before they so outwardly, oh, we're offering you this thing and all that now. And maybe she did, maybe they did, maybe they did. Then I'll give that to them. But maybe it's just about giving a bit more details of how they're doing it as well. Like we reached out.
So you're saying her, the brand needs to say, but then isn't that making it public? Isn't that making it public? Like
they
kind of like humble brag.
Yeah, I don't. They definitely will want to make it public, right? To get some ROI out of it. But I think being it a bit more, rather than just, oh, your story's great, here's free shit for you, just it being so. I think not being so on the nose about it, being a bit more thoughtful about what kind of values are you bringing out there. Because like I said, like, you don't want to make it a slightly perverse incentive for people to, let me just, next time there's any nasty comment on TikTok or whatever, I'm just going to like post some video talking about how humble my background was and things like that, just so I can get free shit from people, So to me, there's some perverting of the incentive for people to be authentic and share their real experiences and thoughts on social media when brands start doing this kind of thing,
But I mean, to your point about how the brand, for all we know, maybe the brands did engage with her. Maybe it started off in DM. Maybe they were very sincere, and it was on her owners to post lah. I mean, there was one example where I saw on their Facebook that they posted and put a voucher there for the whole world to see, and it got shared like crazy lah.
Yeah.
So that one, I'm like, yo man, it's clearly, I don't even know whether you give a shit and whether you're really irritated, but it's clearly for marketing. But let's say they did go down the path of messaging and it was her who posted, then that one should be okay, right?
Yeah. Especially, I think, for her to post also, it would help a lot, right? For us to understand what kind of so-called commercial relationship there is. But that's why it gets very very tricky every time like brands give free stuff to people, and that's why in the last decade or so, I think the influencer marketing also has become is a lot more regulated than it used to be, right? Because there's so much perversion of like the incentives and the relationship between the influencer and their followers and the brands and all that. There's not clearly explained enough that it puts in a very gray area between marketing and just sharing information with your followers, which is also very related to our second story later, but I'm jumping the gun a little bit here. But yeah, also the whole thing just, could it have been handled more differently from this, that wouldn't give this bad taste in people's mouth? I don't know. Like, what do you think?
I mean, because the thing is, what you're saying, it would be good for her to also talk about the relationship with the client, but I mean the brand lah. But we haven't done that in the past for some where they seem earnest enough to send it to us. Right. So if people demand us to say, hey, what is the nature of this transaction? I'll be like, yo man, that that doesn't take away anything from the fact that we are suggesting this, or maybe what it seems more genuine when there's no commercials involved. But I don't think it's on the. It should be on us to declare that. What? So same way, I think it shouldn't be on her to kind of talk about how it came to be.
So it should be or shouldn't be on her?
I say it shouldn't be on her.
Shouldn't be on
If
her.
she wants to post, yeah. But that's why I go back to my first point. I'm going to not let any of my hypothetical kids on social media till they're older, because at this point, I mean, she's 17. As mature as someone can be when you're 17, I think being overloaded with stuff like and social media is also like what you said, it's a very gray area, and I don't know, there's a certain level of slime there lah. So if she's going down the spiral of like, okay, any brand that comes, like I hope that's not the case. But I don't know, man, like she went from 400 followers on TikTok on 7th January to 174,000 followers now.
Wow.
So
that's like
her inbox is probably it's crazy, and like and it's not for bad reason or anything, So that's where the brands are going to keep coming. And I mean she just updated her Instagram with a handle of her art as well. So I hope this doesn't result in most, like, I don't know, like negative repercussions for her, because if she can milk it for what it's worth now and turn it into something great, then sure.
Yeah.
So that's why for me it's less of her, it's more the brand jumping. But then it becomes a thing like, isn't this going to be inevitable? Someone blows up, someone has so much following on values that are generally upheld by society, like, humility, honesty, and all that. Maybe it's unavoidable, man.
Yeah, and we talk about this. I know we're a comedy podcast. I mean, we try to talk things that are a bit funny and all that, but it is very true that in the past week or so, I've been quite heavy-hearted thinking about how to talk about this, So, in the past week, we got the really, really tragic news that Victoria Lee, the MMA fighter, 18-year-old MMA fighter, passed away, and she's part of the One Championship fighting. She's a very huge potential up and coming, and she's in the royalty of MMA, the Lee family, right? Angela Lee, Christian Lee, really, really successful champions in One Championship fighting, right? As fighters, right? And she passed away. I think it's like right there in December, and I think we have a bit more than most people to actually talk about this, because we literally interviewed her on a podcast before, right? At one time before her debut fight for One Championship, we actually spoke to her for about half an hour, I think, on the phone while she was in between her school and her training sessions and all. It's I think some people even on our subreddit have also asked, like, how come we haven't addressed this issue, even though we spoke to her and all that, right? Because and for me, I don't know about you, maybe you can sound off later, but for me, the truth is, I was, when I got the news, we were sharing it with our group, and we were like, what the fuck, like, this is crazy, I can't believe this, it's so tragic, and she was such a, I remember when we spoke to her, it felt so earnest, right, when we were talking, like, we really were talking to a very, very young, bright-eyed prospect in not just in mixed martial arts, but in life as well. Like, she had a whole life ahead of her, and it was I think it would have been such a great journey for her, right? So, like we don't know the exact circumstances of what happened to her, and the circumstances around what happened, her death and all that, right? But it did make me ask, did the pressure of being in the spotlight, get to her in some way? And that makes me wonder, like, all of us, even us, right? Even that small half-hour interview we did for, our, semi popular podcast in Singapore. Was that an added stressor to her, Could it have been one of the added stressors in her life as well, right? Making all these media appearances, making all these interviews. Imagine just like on your way between school and training, you have to do this kind of interview. So, it made me ask: Are we complicit in adding stress to a young adult's life and things like that, lah. So that's why I was so I didn't know how to approach the topic and to talk about it, and I didn't want to just like uh, in memory of Victoria Lee and just talk about it in such a throwaway kind of fashion. That's why, but that's where it makes me wonder a lot about our roles, our roles in the media and how we shape how people think about themselves and all. And to bring it to this topic, it makes me also worried, like like what you said, Zoe's only 17 years old, and suddenly she's been thrust into this international spotlight, and a lot of things have been thrown at her, and whether it's free things or free gifts and all these things, and how she handles it is a very crucial step, right? Because you can't stop her from this wave that is happening on social media. You can't stop her from this wave of companies trying to talk to her and everything. But how she deals with it, how her family helps her deal with it, is very crucial, and it could have a very lasting impact on the rest of her life, lah. Yeah. So it may that's why I looked at this topic. I was like, yeah, it is it's not easy. It seems on the surface, it's a great thing, like, young person gets a lot of fame and then gets a lot of free stuff, and why is it a bad thing? Or are you all just being wet blankets or sour grapes or whatever? But I think about it in the sense of how this will affect her life as well, and I mean, I'm still processing my thoughts about Victoria Lee's passing, and I'm really, really sad about it. But that's just something that came in my mind that when I was reading about this topic and researching about it as well. How about you? What do you think?
I mean, for me, the Victoria Lee passing, I remember hearing the news, and I also was like, what? It almost felt a bit surreal, like because we did speak to this person, and yeah, like I always wondered even back then, like, what that family is like, it's a very unique setup, lah. Like the dad is their coach. They have two champion siblings already, and her. So when it happened, it felt like, oh my god, like my first thought was like, oh, the stress and pressure. Of course, there's not enough details, but why I also felt like, oh, should we talk about it? Should we bring it up? For me, it was like, first of all, I didn't know how to talk about it, and second of all, I don't know. I felt like if we bring it up, is it just kind of like, like in some way asking people, hey, go listen to that podcast. And I'm generally not good with these kind of things. Like how, is it us pushing the podcast, or is it us getting people to relive or remember her? So that's why I was like, and because the news also was still, there was not much detail, so I didn't want to speculate. So that was my reservation. And I also did see the comments on Reddit about people asking, lah. So I don't know, maybe if someone out there, or maybe even if you have an answer for that, like in some way I can imagine it being like, okay, here's remembering who she was, like, and if that 30 minutes gives an insight into who she was, that can be a good thing. For people who just read the articles and read the titles and want to understand her with a bit more depth, lah. The thing about what you said about whether we are complicit, I don't know, man. Then I feel like then you are complicit for anything that I mean, there's so many things, like I think at that point we were not trying to be malicious or something. It's just an unfortunate circumstance, lah. But on that note, I do feel that with this story, with this person, Zoe Gabriel, for all we know, she might be the most mature person ever, and she might be dealing with this well. But for me, I remember when we entered YouTube, and at 30, when I thought, I kind of know who I am, reading the shit comments online, I did feel like, oh fuck, this is not nice to read, lah. But even then, it didn't affect me like as much as it would have when I was younger, no matter how strong you think you are and all. So in this case, given that, I mean, like when you hear someone who is surrounded by people who have maybe a bit more media experience, they kind of can help you navigate. For Zoe, I don't know about her family, but it feels like, wow, I hope she has good people around her, because it could be very disorienting, with that much growth so fast, international news. So I just hope like she has good people around her and it comes out good for her. La.
Yeah. I hope so
Yeah.
too. It's a tough one.
Yeah. And all those brands, right? If you want to just fucking post on Instagram all the good things you're doing, just if you really want to help, just if that happens organically through her, sure. But don't post on Facebook that you're giving this voucher and all that shit. It's fucking annoying.
Yeah. It's a tough one.
Yeah. But I mean, we didn't even talk about the whole luxury debate. But I guess that one is more like, whatever. People debating it.
It's a whole other debate.
Enough people debating.
Yeah.
But yes.
That's
interesting.
Yeah. So
interesting. And of course, on Reddit, there are a lot of conversations. But if you have any thoughts, just head on over to our subreddit.
That's right. But yes.
Cool, man.
We go from that story to also another story about someone channeling online fame into stuff outside that leads to positive things outside, although in this case it's not so positive. And what is this story, Harish?
The kerfuffle that's been going on around Logan Paul, the infamous influencer, the one and only Logan Paul, the guy who started on Vine years ago and then became a YouTuber, and now he's a NFT creator, he's a boxer, he's a podcaster, he's what he calls himself, an entertainer, a multi-hyphenate. But the controversy is because in 2021, at the cusp of the NFT bubble, he launched his own crypto project called Cryptozoo.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's got like fucking like 20, 30 million followers across all platforms. So when he launches something, it gets traction. So in 2021, he kept labeling it as a fun game that makes you money. But after like a year, after getting a shit tons of money, people buying into the game, it just went dark lah.
Yeah,
and
but when you say buying the game, when you say buying the game, you mean buying to the NFTs that will allow them to play the game, right?
Oh yeah. Correct. So basically, the game which was the general mechanic of NFT games, or a lot of NFT games at that point, there were 10,000 base eggs that you get, which were made available for purchase on September 1st, 2021. And then a month later, the eggs will hatch into animal NFTs. So you don't know what sort of animal your egg will hatch into. And that it would yield a certain number of zoo dollars every day, which was an in-game currency. So then 2 animal NFTs could be bred into hybrids, and apparently Logan Paul was investing a lot of money into building the tech and all that. So people bought in, they put in a lot of money into this. I think certain cases like people put in like a few 100,000. On the launch day itself, Logan Paul made $2.5 million because each egg was $300 each. So you can imagine how many people kind of like bought into it. And I think since the eggs started hatching and all, people were like, what the fuck is this? Like the images were shit, and some people couldn't claim the zoo dollar yields that the NFTs were promising.
Yeah.
And slowly over time, it kind of died. Then
he stopped talking about it. He stopped talking about it on all his social media, his podcast, or even the Discord server about it, right?
Yeah. So the controversy started unraveling in June last year, when Logan Paul provided an update on Cryptozoo, because a lot of people were asking on the Discord server, on his social media, and then he said there was a slew of shady characters within the crypto industry. Its lead developer took the code and fled to Switzerland and held it hostage for 1 million. And then that developer posted on LinkedIn that his development team was owed over 1 million. And they quit because Logan Paul didn't pay. So it was a whole bunch of shit and all that. And then more recently, there's this YouTuber called CoffeeZilla, who is in the business of creating like deep dives into shady crypto shit. Like all the stuff that has been going on around crypto. He actually dissects it, and he had released a 3-episode video series on Logan Paul, which basically called him out for his bullshit lah. Did you see those videos?
I've seen the first one. Yes, I've not finished all three, but I've seen the first one.
It's quite accusatory lah, right? He doesn't hold back.
Yeah, doesn't hold back, but at the same time, he seems to be, really trying to get official comments, getting checking on his sources and things like that. So it is a good piece of investigative YouTubing, if you can call it that.
Investigative YouTubing. And then a few days later, Logan Paul on his own podcast, Impulsive, released a video where he said he was just disgusted by CoffeeZilla's accusations, and he's going to sue him, and he debunked all his myths, and then he got conned and all that shit. So I remember seeing part of that. I was like, wow, more Logan Paul drama. At that point in time, I was like, fuck this. I don't want to care anymore. But what happened since then?
I think Logan Paul has since actually backtracked on his statements, right? And then has actually said that he has apologized to CoffeeZilla. He's not pursuing any legal action against him, and he apologized for what he said in the video that was calling him a criminal and then accusing him of fake news and things like that. And he said that he wants to make good on for all the Cryptozoo investors as well. And he not only has done that, he's also come up with a 3-step plan that he is doing to address the issue. I think you can watch the video and see, but it also involves him saying that he's going to commit $1.3 million of his own money to making good on everything that's going on here, and that he will be pursuing legal action against the parties involved, the so-called shady parties involved that maybe have made people feel like it's a scam lah. So it's a complete 180-degree turn from whatever it was in the so-called reaction video that he did to CoffeeZilla. And it really, I guess in some good way, CoffeeZilla's work has really, forced Logan Paul to face the music and take responsibility for and accountability for the whole Cryptozoo fiasco lah. Yeah. So
then why did you want to...
Why did I want to what?
Why did I want to what? Finish your thought.
No, I just was going to say, like, wow, it's as I was just doing all the research for this, I was just like missing those days when Logan Paul was just a content creator on YouTube, right, primarily, and his scandals that were on the internet and all were much simpler to dissect and to go through. Like, you wouldn't need to understand the whole economics behind NFT projects and cryptocurrency and all that in order to talk about a Logan Paul scandal, a Logan Paul fiasco. Back then, it was just about very distasteful, very offensive videos that he put out about visiting the suicide forest and have kept capturing an actual dead body on camera and things like that lah, right? Or just being obnoxious as he was traveling through Japan lah. I don't know if you remember that time.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, those were simpler days lah, right? When the scandals were also simpler and not so complex. Now they're a bit more complex. You got to read up, you got to understand what's going on. You got to watch 24-minute videos about breaking down the scandals. Yeah, it requires a lot more brain work to get offended these days.
But then why do you want to talk about this? Why?
No, I think it's a matter of public interest, right? Because I think Logan Paul, like you mentioned, he's got a huge following. This is in the realm of cryptocurrency, which we all know has had very big ups and very, very huge downs more recently, and a lot of people losing money in the process. But I think this one is, the bigger question is like is this a scam? Is this a scam that people have bought into? And is there just talking about how Logan Paul has he managed to sort of win back people who called him a scammer by his most recent admission and most recent apology video and all. Because I think it's something worth thinking about, because a lot of people, this day and age are thinking about what kind of investments they can put their money in order to prepare for the big recession and everything that's coming, right? So that's why something like Logan Paul, just understanding how people got to this point of investing hundreds of thousands of dollars in an influencer's NFT game, and if there's anything that they could have done to stop it,
and this is not like hundreds of and this is not hundreds of thousands of dollars in totality. It's like individuals invested that much. Individuals invested that much.
Because there's also some talk that what people are saying that I mean, this is the nature of investing, right? In NFTs and cryptocurrency. There's a risk to it, and it might just end up being a complete vaporware, and that's what you get with cryptocurrency, lah. So should we feel any sympathy for these so-called victims? Yeah, that's a big question, though.
I mean, I think this whole Logan Paul off the bat thing, I appreciate that there are channels like CoffeeZilla out there to kind of call bullshit on things that would otherwise just fade into anonymity, lah. Because I remember seeing that NFT project being launched, and back then I already kind of had like my own thoughts about Logan Paul, in the sense that he's very talented. He's quite a business guy, but there's just in the previous story I said social media has this layer of slime. I feel there's that to him, lah. He's definitely built up a following, but with this crypto thing, it was at the height of the whole NFT craze, lah. So do I feel sympathy for the people who invested? I would say I do. But also, like, wow, the NFT thing, even back then, there was really cautionary tales, like, okay, this thing, like, just don't invest money that you cannot lose, right? So when this whole shit happened, why I wanted to talk about it a bit more this time was, I remember seeing the clip of Logan Paul last week on his podcast, very full of conviction that CoffeeZilla is a criminal and all that. Like, then now suddenly the about turn, which makes this whole thing feel like, what the fuck is going on? Because now, that apology video, it feels similar to the video he made after the incident in Japan. That kind of what to make of this? I mean, he has since recovered from that. He's launched.
He's thrived, man. I would say more than recovered. He's thrived since then.
Yeah, and in this case, I don't know, it feels like probably in the crypto space, I don't know, like shady shit in the crypto space is almost the norm, that when I saw this, I'm like, yeah, of course it's a fucking pump and dump, lah. It's a pump and dump. So even this 3-step plan, I mean, if I had money invested in it, of course I'll be hoping something comes out of it. But I would think that shit can go wrong again, lah.
Yeah. Because I think you raised a point, lah, that Logan Paul, basically for the last 10 years or how many years he's been on social media, has basically thrived on controversy, right? He's ridden one wave of controversy, to the next and all. So even this whole flip-flop of responses from calling CoffeeZilla a criminal, then suddenly flipping 180 to, saying that, I apologize and all these things. I mean, it's created more news about him, right? As opposed to if he just straight away said, oh yeah, CoffeeZilla was right, I'm going to try and write this and all that. He just created more news for himself by reacting angrily first to CoffeeZilla's videos, and then after that turning around and saying, oh, actually he's right, like everything, a lot of things he's saying is true and things like that. So I don't know, it's just Logan Paul is just so good at this, right? I mean, he's literally become, from just making short Vine clips, he became a YouTuber, influencer, and built up successful businesses, then became a boxer who boxed one of the greatest boxers of all time, and also then became a WWE superstar as well. So he's really just ridden one thing after another, and to me it just feels like this one, it's there's a lot of announcements and things that he's promising, but that's the same thing that he promised when he first launched the NFT project as well, right? That he literally said that they had spent like $1 million or something like that to to build it up. And some of the things that they were doing was quite laughable. Like you see the pictures of the so-called hybrid animals that you could breed in Cryptozoo. Literally, apparently, people found out later they're literally just like stock images
meshed together
with face swaps. Basically, you face swap a gorilla and a fish or something like that, and then that's the hybrid animal that you can breed. So it wasn't like what he promised, like hand created artwork. Because at least if you're paying artists to create art, of hybrid animals, I think that could be pretty interesting. I think we've seen a lot of NFT projects where it's about, it's really about the artwork that's being created as well, right? And obviously, yes, there's the whole hype of NFTs and cryptocurrency that was around that. But at the base level, there were people literally there creating the artwork, right? So I wouldn't straight out just say, oh, this Cryptozoo is the idea is crap, is without its merits, but it was just laughable. Some of the attempts that they made at creating these assets for the project. So yeah, that's why I guess everyone just has this they're lumping together Logan Paul's entire history of being a controversial content creator who does things for the clicks and the money, right? They're lumping all that together with this, whatever the Cryptozoo project is. And at this point, and then it seems like I don't think the internet or even the commentators or YouTubers like CoffeeZilla will just let it die quietly, They're not just going to let it go away. So Logan Paul actually probably has to face the music and really try and resolve this properly. If not, it'll just keep coming up, and the last thing that you want is that people remember you only as a scammer and not for all the other things that you've done.
But then I think I don't know whether he even feels the need to redeem himself though. And I say that because he's been through so many controversies. Probably this one is okay, it's just another thing to deal with. You go to his Twitter profile, he was tweeting stuff yesterday, watching his buddy KSI in a boxing game, and it just feels like it's not like a huge weight on him when Messi won the World Cup, Cristiano Ronaldo goes silent. That one he's feeling it he's feeling it. This one, it feels like it's business as usual for Logan Paul. Some of his other tweets, which CoffeeZilla pointed out also, is I think Logan Paul pasted screenshots of his email to CoffeeZilla inviting him onto their Impulsive podcast, where CoffeeZilla didn't reply. But then CoffeeZilla posted that what Logan Paul didn't include was that CoffeeZilla invited him on his show first, but Logan Paul didn't do that. So it's all these kind of tactics, right? Logan Paul, he understands this, and I think it is nothing big for him because this is just a speck in the ocean of Logan Paul, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's very true.
So so I think it's just business as usual for him.
But
business as usual.
The interesting thing is that when in the CoffeeZilla video, if you watch it, right, a lot of the investors, so-called Cryptozoo investors, right, they mentioned that because Logan Paul was behind the project and all, that's what made them trust that something would happen with the project, and that's why they pumped in so much money into it, And you look at these people; they're not young kids or fans, fans from his YouTube days or anything like that, They look like older people, older people who maybe have quite a bit of cash to actually spend on these things, right? Yeah. So does it surprise you that there are people, properly functioning, mature adults who are investing for Logan Paul's name in half-baked projects like Cryptozoo?
No lah. I mean, you look at fucking the past year, all these things, FTX, don't know, whatever shit projects, there will always be people who are conned. And sometimes it almost feels the more famous the person, the more hyped up the project or the product, the easier it is to con people. Even with Ryan Tan, right, from NOC, he also had some pump and dump scheme that he got called out for. But again, that's just a speck in his life where he just moved on.
To be fair, we're not 100% sure of what his involvement entirely was, but he definitely did do a shout out or show for that company, right? There was selling those coins and also, it's it's one of those things where they do it and then they just sort of just move on, right? And then
exactly.
What they hope for is that people forget about it, don't think about it, and that's why the internet. I think the internet is such an interesting place, and where our normal understanding of how law and how whether it's business norms they don't apply to the internet. A lot of the things on the internet. I don't just mean in the cryptocurrency world, but just like what we understand to be law and order in the normal world that we live in on the internet is just so different. So it's like,
yeah, man.
Wow, it's for me. It's like I see those investors and I'm like, well, shame on you that you believed in Logan Paul, right? But at the same time, there was so much froth going on in the NFT world that, hey, if someone like Logan Paul with all his followers and all that puts his name behind something, it's better than the 100 over 1,000 other more scammy NFT projects that are out there, right? At the point of time.
Yeah.
So you would even think that it was probably a better financial decision than putting your money in some other random NFT project.
Yeah.
That's why I'm like, it could have been, wouldn't just, don't look at those people as idiots or anything. It could have been any one of us as well, right?
Yeah. I mean, and like if we were to do like a live show or something like we did last year, and when it sold out, and I can imagine because people trust us, and there probably are people who trust Logan Paul. So yeah, it just feels like what you said, like you would think that Logan Paul can't fuck up that badly because he's such a big public figure. But no.
Yeah.
He's totally fine if he does.
Yeah.
Totally fine.
But yeah, have you watched the full CoffeeZilla series?
Not yet, but I skimmed through and I read through the summaries and all.
Yeah. But I think it's I've watched his other videos on other topics and they're all pretty good, right? So that's the kind of thing that you will only find these kind of pieces on YouTube. You will never find it in any other form of media where someone a journalist takes the extra effort to check the sources and report on something, but then also make something entertaining out of it. That's why I still spend so much time watching YouTube because of creators like CoffeeZilla. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know what else to say about it. I think it's just something that we should all keep in mind, that Logan Paul has this 3-step plan, and just keep that at the back of your mind as you see things whether they unfold properly or fuck up once again.
Yeah.
I have very little hope that it will unfold properly.
Yeah, like you said, the slime on social media.
The slime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yes, speaking of more positive things, right?
Less slimy.
Yeah. How about one Shiok comment? What's your one Shiok comment?
One Shiok comment.
Yeah.
One Shiok comment. Why don't you go first, Terrence?
Sure. It's someone posted a poll about asking, does Terrence listen to Harish when he's sharing his one Shiok thing and one Shiok comment? So there's all those options. Yes, Terrence pays attention. No, Terrence couldn't care less. So I think this is in response to me doing a boo-boo and sort of repeating a one Shiok comment that Harish did. Even though I think my assessment of the Shiok comment was much more heartfelt than Harish's, but that's another.
Shut the fuck up,
topic.
Nonsense. But, did you even listen to what I said about the comment? No, because you were not listening.
I did. It's just that my memory's not great these days, But I mean, one of the comments to that particular post was by a thoughtful name, saying, with the exception of that episode, I think most of the time it's the other way around. Harish not listening to Terrence, ha ha ha. And to be fair, the poll should be expanded to include the options Harish not listening to Terrence and they don't listen to each other, which I totally 100% agree with. This is like the truth. This is real. This is the real truth compared to the fake news of everything else.
That is all allegations. There is no evidence to prove that I do not listen. Whereas for you, my friend, there is very clear evidence documented in a podcast that will be online forever. So until that happens, right, please, somebody start the poll. I'm very confident of the results.
No, the poll is there already. The poll is there. So
no, as in the new poll with a new option.
New poll. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, should we? No, there's still 2 days and 1 hour left in the poll. I won't
We should let
reveal
it
the
finish.
results yet, but
Yeah.
but please go ahead and leave your thoughts. Right now, there's
Yes,
only
please leave your thoughts.
those two answers like yes, Terrence pays attention to what Harish says, and no, Terrence couldn't care less about what Harish says.
I'll just say this lah. You know, we talk a lot about Harish complains a lot about me shitting on his one Shiok things or one Shiok comments and all that. Let me ask you this. Is it possible to shit on something if you don't even listen to it? You know? Right. Is it possible to even criticize something if you're not even watching it or listening to it? Right. We talk about you want before you go out there and criticize a movie or something, you go and watch it first. So I'll ask you the same thing, Harish. How come you don't have any comments about my one Shiok comment or one Shiok things? Hardly ever, lah, right? Whereas I always have something to say about your
no,
things.
I always have. They're just supportive, positive comments. Because this is the supportive and positive section of the podcast. Okay?
Yeah.
When I do disagree, in the rare few moments, I do voice it out, but very politely. I don't
hold
break
it back.
your
That's why
hopes
you got
and
that
dreams.
That's why you're talking about that face that you have of disagreement. You're just pulling out all the muscles in your face are just like stiff, and you just want to say something, but you don't because you're holding it back. Is that what you're saying?
No, that's just my post-marriage face. Pre-marriage, okay. I was smiley to the max. I was Mr. Smiley. But yeah, that was a funny poll. Fucking love that poll.
That's funny.
Yeah, I love that poll.
Yes.
So on a separate thread and a separate topic, my one Shiok comment is also something from a thoughtful name. You know, like giving some street cred to the thoughtful in your handle. It's with regards to the previous podcast we did with JD Chua, who was a great guest to have. He's the director of Circle Line, a movie out in cinemas right now. If you listen to the full podcast, JD did suggest an alternate ending for the podcast, where I think he felt like we normally end a bit too abruptly and all that. So a thoughtful name said, I kind of disagree with JD's suggestion on how to end the podcast. I think it'll make it more awkward to the point that it becomes cringy. Haha, I very much prefer the usual abrupt ending. It's just the right amount of awkwardness. And Sills agreed. You know, the usual awkward and abrupt endings is a yalabat thing, and I embrace it fully. Fuck yeah, man. I totally agree. It's not the first time people commented about the abrupt ending, but now it's become a thing, man. It's become a thing.
Yeah. No, I think and it actually reflects what a lot of life is, right? A lot of times we think of
it's awkward.
Things always end beautifully. You got to say goodbye in a nice way. You got to be polite. But 3/4 of the time they aren't. And most of the time when you walk away from the party, you always forget to say goodbye to someone, or you always forget to, bring your umbrella or something. There's always some fuck up, right? And there's always kind of awkward when people are leaving parties and all. So this is the podcast. It kind of reflects what life is, and I appreciate that aspect of it.
Yeah, even though I don't necessarily think that always when you leave parties, I don't know what kind of parties you go to. Like you always bring an umbrella to parties, is it?
Then recently, because the rain.
Because you want to rain on their parade, is it?
Rain on parade, but also because the weather has been kind of unpredictable lately.
Right? True.
And a lot of times, I think at least twice in the last week or so, I've left the umbrella at wherever I was. Whether it's a cafe or a friend's place and all that. I've left my umbrella there, and it's always awkward because I gotta come back. 5 minutes later, and take it, and okay, bye, say bye again. So it's just one of those things. Yeah.
So the awkwardness is not going anywhere, man. It's not going anywhere. So thanks to those users who kind of embraced it.
Yes.
Yeah. And for the one Shiok thing, what is your one Shiok thing, man?
I mean, just to prove also that I do listen to what people are saying. I did go and check out JD's recommendation of documentaries you can watch on Netflix. They are really good. So I finally watched Don't Fuck with Cats, which is something that I heard a lot about, but I never actually watched. And it was really a very interesting watch and very captivating front to end. I mean, to be honest, I really, really thought it was a documentary about cats, entirely about cats initially. But it's not. It's actually a thriller kind of a documentary about a serial killer. So, it's it's something definitely worth a limited series that's worth catching. If you really want to watch something that is pretty compelling and goes back to what we were talking about earlier, where the internet was. Internet is really the wild wild west lah, and it runs in parallel with what our understanding of the real world is. So the idea of don't fuck with cats is that one of the they stated at the start of the film, so it's not a spoiler, that one of the cardinal rules when dealing on the internet, whether it's the dark web or what, is don't fuck with cats. Don't fuck around with cats or and make bad shit about cats, because that shit will come back to haunt you later.
So there is something to do with cats lah. There is something to do with cats.
No, yeah, absolutely, it has a lot to do with cats. But I initially thought it was something about
or like cat abuse or something.
Yeah, like no, about like understanding more about cats. For example, like an interesting documentary about cats. No, not that it was about people who fuck with cats. That's the thing. So maybe
I see.
Maybe in some way the there wasn't the marketing or the title and all that wasn't strong enough that people like me who heard about the show and heard how good it was never realized that it was not about cats per se lah.
Really? Yeah. I thought the marketing did the job because the name is so captivating that and then I remember it was about some serial killer. That being said, when I was telling my wife about that recommendation from JD, she said, "Oh, that's the one about the coding and the hacker, is it?" I'm like, "Huh? Whoa, what are you talking about?" Then she's like, "Yeah, it's something online, right?" I was like, "I mean, technically lah, but there's a serial killer involved." So she also wasn't aware lah.
So you've watched it lah? You watched it?
No, I haven't watched it.
Oh, okay. But that's the thing lah. I think I heard it's great, and I also thought maybe some hacker thingy and all that. That was also one thing that crossed my mind. Yeah.
But I got my aversion to documentaries in general. Whereas I know you're a docu-file.
No lah, I'm a good content file. Good content file. Yeah, I don't discriminate based on the format so much.
Good content file.
Yeah.
Cool.
But you should try it out if you're looking for a good documentary. Yeah.
Yeah, I finished Pepsi Where's My Jet already, so I am on the lookout.
Yeah. So why you just watched that? So why are you against documentaries?
No, like there's always an inertia. Okay. It feels like watching a show. Sometimes you wanna switch off, you wanna veg out, and documentaries always have I'm still stuck in the days of boring documentaries. Even though I've watched a lot of entertaining documentaries, like Pepsi Where's My Jet was entertaining and informative. So I just need to stop being so. I need to let go of my perspectives.
Yeah.
Of my prejudices. Yeah. Shut up, lah.
Okay. So what's your one Shiok thing?
My one Shiok thing was a article by the New York Times. I saw it on Straits Times and I was like, oh shit, this is interesting. And then I saw at the bottom is New York Times lah. So, but it's an announcement that Noma, that world famous restaurant, I think for 5 times rated the best restaurant in the world.
It's in the US, is it?
No. It's in Denmark.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's world renowned lah. I think they close for half the year every year to research new recipes, and you have to book 3 years in advance or something lah.
Okay.
So the article is about the announcement that Noma is closing, and that's not my one Shiok thing. My one Shiok thing is the article itself, because it talks about something that I was totally not aware of, and apparently the era of fine dining, right, is actually kind of slowing down, because there's been a slew of Michelin star restaurants in the US and all closing down. Even Noma is closing down to go into private dining. And what was interesting in this article, and you can find more articles that talk about it, is that the industry itself is facing a lot of backlash for a number of things. For the price of its meals, the staff are severely underpaid. They are overworked. There are more and more allegations of exploitation and sexual harassment, and you look at it in parallel with the move towards more simplicity and more sustainability and almost like a minimalist lifestyle. So I never thought it would reach this, but when I read this and then just talking about, looking at other industries where everyone's going back to the simpler form of something. I know friends who are in wellness, and I don't know, according to them in the industry also for yoga and all the funky classes and all, there's less of that now, and it's moved back to what is at its core of things. So when I saw this, I was like, oh shit, I never thought the fine dining thing. I thought it would, with rising wealth inequality and all that, I thought fine dining would just carry on its trajectory. So it's my one Shiok thing because I thought it was a thought-provoking article about the industry as a whole and how it relates to other industries that are more atas.
But I don't know, man. Like I thought in Singapore there's just more and more fine dining options than ever before.
Maybe it's one of those things that in the West, as we see definitely for social media, when trends pick up there's a bit of a gap between when it picks up in Asia. And I just read some article today about how there's one banker left to create Asia's first non-alcoholic cocktail brand. And
so
if you look
say?
like
what does that mean?
I think it was a few years ago when I saw the first brand that made it big called Seed Lip or something, which is non-alcoholic cocktails . So that became a thing like 2 years ago, and then now you're seeing it in Asia. So I don't know. Maybe it's just something that will eventually catch up in Singapore. It was an article that I read. I'm like, oh shit, that's a different way of looking at it .
Yeah.
So it's my one Shiok thing.
Yeah, I think the economics of F&B, between the West and in Asia are very different. Also because of our street food culture and everything as well, right?
Yeah, exactly.
For the US, you kind of, it's hard to eat good tasting food cheaply, right? Generally, exactly. I find. Whereas in Singapore and in Malaysia, wherever in Asia there's street food, right? Actually, it's the two extremes, right? Either you're buying street food or you're eating in fine dining to get the really best stuff, right? So it's kind of it's a bit different, very different landscapes also,
yeah. But it's interesting. Cool. So I would recommend you read it.
Awesome.
Cool, man. Cool.
Another awkward ending. Right. Another awkward ending to this podcast.
Yeah, awkward ending. And so we will talk to y'all soon.